In this video today, I'll be discussing the difference between plant protein and animal-based protein. My name is Adam, also known as the Plant Power Coach, and hopefully we can debunk some myths today. Now, I know what the vast majority of people are going to say about this video because the vast majority of people eat both animals and plant-based products, and they're going to say that we need a balance of both. And my rebuttal to that is, do we actually though? Hopefully this video can point out a few things besides the obvious one that the animals that we consume get their protein from plants anyway, creating an unnecessary middleman. Now before I dive into the fake meat of this video, see what I did there? There are a couple of things I do want to address. Number one, I am vegan. Now, for some of you, you may consider that to be a form of bias. That's fine. If you consider someone to be against animal abuse to be a form of bias, then I am completely accepting of that. Now, number two, vegans, obviously such as myself, don't have a problem with what you're eating necessarily, but rather who you're eating. Until the day that we can consume animal-based products without harming or hurting any other sentient beings, there will always be animal welfare and animal rights activists fighting against the cause and fighting against people wanting to consume more and more animal-based products. Now, that all being said, I do want to make this video about the secondary factors which revolve around the health and environmental discussion, which most people tend to be more interested in, which I also consider to be stepping stones into what we now discover as veganism or plant-based eating. Now, in this video specifically, we'll be talking about protein consumption, so please refrain from comments like, but animals eat other animals, or what about your B12, because I'll be referencing them in future videos. Today is just about protein. So first things first, what is protein? Seems like a logical place to start. Proteins are large, complex molecules that play many critical roles in the body. They do most of the work in cells and are required for the structure, function, and regulation of the body's tissues and organs. Proteins are made of hundreds of thousands of smaller units called amino acids, which are attached to one another in long chains. There are 20 different types of amino acids that can be combined to make a protein. Some amino acids can be made by your body. There are 11 of these and are known as non-essential amino acids. And there are 9 amino acids that your body cannot make, and they are known as essential amino acids. You need to include enough of these in your diet so that your body can function. So far so good. It sounds like protein is super important for human consumption. So that begs the question, can we get all the essential amino acids from animal-based products or plant-based products? And the answer is yes. Both animal and plant-based protein sources contain all essential amino acids that the human body requires. So right now, if you're watching this video, you're either someone who consumes your protein directly from the source, i.e. plant-based, or you're someone who consumes a combination of plant products and animal-based products, also known as an omnivore, or if you're an absolute lunatic, you consume only animal-based products. Let's have a look at a randomized control trial from 2023 shown on the screen, which looks at participants who ate either milk protein versus plant-derived protein, which concluded ingestion of 30-gram plant-derived protein blend combined wheat, corn, and pea-derived protein increases muscle protein synthesis rates in healthy young males. The muscle protein synthetic response to the ingestion of 30 grams of this plant-derived protein blend does not differ from the ingestion of an equivalent amount of high-quality animal-derived protein. Now, obviously, this is just one study, but let's look at some more. I'm very interested to hear about the position of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which happens to be the largest group of professionals on this topic. It is the position of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics that appropriately planned vegetarian, including vegan, diets are healthful, nutritionally adequate, and may provide health benefits for the prevention and treatment of certain diseases. These diets are appropriate for all stages of life, including pregnancy, lactation, infancy, childhood, adolescence, older adulthood, and for athletes. Plant-based diets are more environmentally sustainable than diets rich in animal products because they use fewer natural resources and are associated with much less environmental damage. Vegetarians and vegans are at reduced risk of certain health conditions, including ischemia, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, certain types of cancer, and obesity. Now, everything we've discussed so far should be enough for any open-minded individuals, but let's throw out a few more studies into the mix. This 2023 randomized control study looked at the effects of plant-based protein intervention with and without an exercise component on body composition, strength, and physical function in older adults. They concluded plant protein intervention improved muscle mass over time and were compared to other interventions, warranting further investigations as an anabolic stimulus in vulnerable populations. So far, it probably seems like things are tied up when it comes to plant protein and animal based protein. But here's the thing, we humans have something I refer to as selective optimism and selective pessimism, meaning we like to look at the good and the bad of things when and where it's convenient to us. Suggesting that eating animal based products is good for us because it contains protein is kind of like saying consuming Coca-Cola is good for us because it contains potassium. It's hardly logical to label a product as good for human consumption and bad for human consumption based off one component. We need to look at the full package. Now, in the context to this video, what do the protein sources come with? What do the protein sources not come with? How do these protein sources affect our environment? And did my protein purchase have unnecessary suffering? Now, these are not rhetorical questions. We shouldn't just consider the ones that are convenient to us. We need to understand exactly what we're paying for and what we are consuming. So let's start to answer each and every one of those individually. Now, you might be wondering what components or what differences are there between protein sources from plants and protein sources from animals. Now, for starters, there are no animal-based products which contain a component which is extremely helpful for human health, and that is going to be fiber, something human beings already do not consume enough of. So let's have a look at this study on dietary fiber intake and the risk of cardiovascular disease. In conclusion, greater dietary fiber intake is associated with lower risk of both cardiovascular disease and coronary heart disease. Findings are aligned with general recommendations to increase fiber intake. Very interesting. So far, plant protein has fiber, animal protein doesn't contain fiber. Again, something that humans are already not consuming enough of. What else is there? Well, what's something that animal-based products have that plant-based products do not have? Dietary cholesterol. Let's have a look at a study done on twins to remove genetic variables, which actually outline the differences between an omnivorous diet versus a plant-based or vegan diet. In conclusion, this randomized clinical trial for cardiometabolic effects of omnivorous versus vegan diets in identical twins, the healthy vegan diet led to improved cardiometabolic outcomes compared with a healthy omnivorous diet. Very interesting again, consider this another point for plant-based protein. So let's move on to a different area now. Our planet, the environment, Mother Nature, if you will. How does our choice of protein consumption affect the world that we live in? Here's an interesting point to consider before we dive into the studies. What do the animals that we consume eat? Well, pretty obvious. They consume plants that we fed them in the first place. So immediately, without showing any studies, we can kind of see how inefficient the system works. Either you consume foods directly from their source, or you consume foods from a source which already ate more of the source we could have eaten originally. It doesn't really take a scientist to realize how inefficient that is. And before anyone says things like these animals eat grass or other forms of foods that is not appropriate for human consumption, think again. Over 3/4 of the soy that we grow gets fed back to the animals that we consume. And this only seems to be growing rapidly. And Our World in Data also points out a few interesting facts about protein consumption and its footprint on the environment. They concluded if you want to reduce the carbon footprint of your diet, avoid air freighted foods where you can. But beyond this, you can have a larger difference by focusing on what you eat rather than eating local. Yes, we all like to say, I eat local, I eat free range, I eat nonsense. I've lost count now, but it sounds like that was another point for plant-based protein. Have you been keeping score? Now, just everything I've said put aside right now, let's just assume that we were still at a tie. Now, the answer might be simple. I'm an omnivore. I will continue doing what I want to do and eat what I want to eat, while you hippie plant-based people can eat whatever you want. Stop forcing your views. It's my choice. Does this sound familiar? Now, unfortunately, no one can force you to do anything. At the end of the day, you are correct. It is your choice. In fact, isn't anything that we do our choice? Does that justify us being able to do whatever we want? Now, what I'm merely suggesting is that we actually consider the victims, the innocent, scared, sentient beings who are forced into cages, imprisoned, taken away from their families due to our choices. Animal protein is a non-essential because we have alternatives which, explained in this video, far outweigh the benefits of continuing to pay for suffering. I hope this video has helped you better understand that you have the power to make a choice between plant-based and animal-based protein, and hopefully you'll make the right choice. Please consider subscribing, and I hope to catch you in the next video. Take care.